Hi, welcome to today's lesson. Our learning target today is I can use equivalent fractions to convert fractions to decimals. So let's begin. Yesterday, we learned how to convert fractions that had base 10 denominators. Those are denominators like 10, 100, 1,000, or any other number that's a power of 10. And what we learned was that if we take the numerator and put it in the place value identified by the denominator, in this case, the tenths place, we've made our conversion. And so 9/10 written as a decimal is 0 and 9/10, or 0.9. But what if our denominator is not a base 10 number like 10, 100, or 1,000? What if it's another kind of number? Well, today we learn one strategy to convert those fractions. How to convert a fraction to a decimal. Here's our two-step strategy for today. Step 1, we're going to find an equivalent fraction with 10 or 100 in the denominator. So if we're not given 10 or 100 or 1,000 to start, let's get 10, 100, or 1,000. And once we do, in step 2, we can then, just as we did yesterday, write the equivalent fraction as a decimal. So let's see an example of this. Here we have a fraction 1/2. As you can see, the denominator 2 is not a base 10 number. It is not 10, 100, or 1,000. And so we need to convert it or change that 2 into 10, 100, or 1,000. And 2, I know, is a factor of 10. And so if I use my knowledge of finding equivalent fractions, I can multiply 2 times 5 to get a new denominator of 10. And now I'm working with a fraction that's in the tenths. Going back to my knowledge of finding an equivalent fraction, I remember that if I've multiplied the denominator by a number, such as 5, I have to do the same thing to the numerator in order to create my equivalent fraction. So here I have 1 times 5, and 1 times 5 is 5. And so 1/2 is equal to 5/10. And now that I have 5/10 as a fraction, I can go back to what we learned in the previous lesson and convert that into a decimal, putting 5 in the tenths place, 0 and 5/10. 1/2 is equivalent to 0 and 5/10, or 0.5. Let's see another example. Here we have 3/5. Again, the denominator 5 is not a power of 10. So how can we turn it into a power of 10? Well, 5 is also a factor of 10. So if we multiply 5 times 2, that'll get us our new denominator. That's a power of 10. In this case, it's 10 again. And because I know how to find an equivalent fraction, I'll multiply the numerator by the same number as I multiply the denominator, 2. 3 times 2 is 6. And now I have an equivalent fraction to 3/5, which is 6/10. And it is a base 10 fraction. And so now I can simply convert by writing a 6 in the tenths place. And now I have 6/10. All right, want to see one more? Here we have 16/50. Wait a second, 50ths. I can't turn that into 10. Nope. Now we have to think of another base 10 number. What base 10 number like 10, 100, or 1,000 can we turn 50 into? I hope you said 100, because that is the most efficient way to do it. We could use 1,000, but that's inefficient because that multiplies by a much bigger number than we'd have to multiply by to get to 100. So let's multiply 50 times 2, and that'll create our new denominator. It's a base 10 number, 100. Because I multiplied 50 times 2, I have to do the same thing to the numerator. So 16 times 2. And that's going to get me 32. So now I have 32 hundredths as my equivalent fraction to 16/50ths, and I have a base 10 number in the denominator. All that's left now is to convert, just like we did in the previous lesson. 32 hundredths is equal to 0 and 32 hundredths. You see I have 2 in the hundredths place, and that's how I know I'm correct, 32 hundredths. All right. Here's another one. One more that we'll do together, and then I'm going to have you do a couple on your own. Okay, so here we have the fraction 3/4. Again, 4 is not a base 10 number, And so we must convert to an equivalent fraction first. Now, interesting, 4 is kind of small, so your instinct might tell you I can maybe turn 4 into 10, but 4 times no whole number is going to get us to 10, right? We practice reflex math for this very moment all year. 4 is not a factor of 10. So what is 4 a factor of? 100? What? It is. Think about coins for a second. And if you don't know this fact, you probably should memorize it. It's very commonly used. 4 times 25 is 100. Think of 4 quarters, right? 25 cents each, make 100 cents in a dollar. So let's multiply 4 times 25. And that is going to give us 100, a base 10 number in our new equivalent fraction in the denominator. And because I've multiplied 4 times 25, I have to multiply the numerator by the same number. And 3 times 25 is 75. I now have 75 hundredths as my equivalent fraction, which I can write or convert to 0 and 75 hundredths as a decimal. Okay, time for you to jump in here and try some of these on your own. Let's try 16 twentieths. First question. What is the base 10 denominator right here that we're going to want to create if we have to start with 20? What do you want to put right here? Did you say 20 times 5 is going to get us 100, and 100 belongs in the denominator right there? I hope so. That's the correct answer. Now, because we've multiplied 20 times 5, what do we have to multiply the numerator by to finish our equivalent fraction? Yes, also by 5, same number. Okay, and what is 16 times 5? Did you say 90? Oh, I hope not, because that's wrong. Hold on a second. Did you say 80? There we go. I hope so, because 80 is correct. Whew. I haven't drank all my coffee yet. All right, so let's go ahead and complete the last step. What is 80 hundredths written as a decimal? I hope you said it 0 and 80 hundredths. If you said just 0 and 8 tenths, that is also correct. You don't need the 0 in the hundredths place, but it does help us to see that this is 80 hundredths, which is what we started with here in the fraction. All right, one more. I promise to do better. 1/5. Go ahead and try to do both steps right down here, okay? They're down here on the screen for you. Find the equivalent fraction and then convert to the decimal, and let's see if you come up with the right decimal equivalent. All right, so step 1 is to multiply 5 times 20 to get 100. Oh, boy, I'm not doing well at all, am I? 5 times 20 would work to get 100, or even more efficiently, you could do 5 times 2 and get 10. Either one's going to work, okay? And if we multiply 5 times 2, we have to do 1 times 2, which will get us 2 tenths. And that we can write as a decimal. That looks like 0 and 2 tenths, putting 2 in the tenths place. All right, that was a rough and... Oh, we have one more. Okay, let's do it again. 4 twentieths. Convert 4 twentieths to a decimal using these 2 steps that we've been practicing in this lesson. All right. Our base 10 denominator is going to be 100 because we're going to multiply 20 times 5 to get 100, which means we also have to multiply 4 times 5 to get 20. We end up with 20 hundredths, which as a decimal looks like 0 and 20 hundredths. And again, you don't need to write the 0 in the hundredths place. 2 tenths is equivalent. It's the same decimal. However, writing the 20 hundredths lets us know and reminds us that we had 20 hundredths to start. Okay, let's wrap this one up. I can use equivalent fractions to convert fractions to decimals. Let's get started on our practice work, and please let me know if you'd like to work together. I'm happy to do that. I'm ready to do that. All right, let's do it.